Gorn. What, did you not see the title of the video?
Gorn!
Without a doubt, Gorn is one of the best games ever made. For those who don't know, Gorn is a gladiator-style combat game.
Sorry, I sort of blacked out there for a second. Where did all this come from?
Whilst being the best game ever created, it's still only early access. Jesus, I'd hate to play Gorn in 10 years from now when it's finally finished and have to continue life after experiencing what would ostensibly be the zenith of absolute perfection.
I can't go back!
It just makes me think if God was a developer, we'd definitely still be early access. It even now has an incredibly impressive giant crab monster. Alright, bye. And those close to me know how I feel about crabs. I tell you what though, fighting this thing even makes me feel bad as we crack away at its precious shell, exposing the soft vital organs that lay underneath. I tell you, I'm never hurting another crab again.
Oh yeah.
What makes Gorn so good is its incredible precision. Whatever you want to do, you just do it and it works every time. The throwing is especially well tuned. Where the fuck is that going? You can grab an enemy on any part of their body and it connects perfectly. And before you know it, bang, bing, bosh, and it'll never walk again. I'm dead inside. Wait a second, what's this? Oh, I see. See, here's your problem. You've got to turn this off. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Oh! Would you get off? I told you, it's time for bed. Put on your pajamas. Hi. Oh, there I go. Blatant Sorcery is basically a combat game where you hit people and have a good time. You start the game in front of this mirror, and it's a huge testament to how fun VR really is, given how long I stood here simply contorting my dislocated elbows and whacking random objects. I mean, look at that face. You can see she really hates mirrors. We still haven't left the first room yet. You quickly learn about the best part of this game, which is picking weapons up off the ground and floating them towards you. The reason this is so good is bending over in VR is fairly immersion breaking, as your center of weight is already slightly askew due to the miniature television you have attached to your face. Like some sort of dystopian future Teletubby.
I have no eyes, but I must see.
As a result, picking up weapons in games like Gorn and Budget Cuts can sometimes be a bit of a pain, but in this game, ow! 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 Okay, let's talk about the actual game. Hey, nice day today. When I first started playing Blatant Sorcery, I was a little disappointed because the game appears to be very simple. The game is made up of 4 levels that you don't exactly progress through. You just pick a map you want to go to and fight different waves of enemies there by selecting the type of wave you want to fight. And in many of the game modes, after a few waves, the combat simply ends and you have to walk all the way back to the wave select book, and it breaks up the combat quite substantially. However, I then realized this game was actually early access, so not complete yet. And after playing for a while, I found what made it such an interesting game. You see, there are so many different ways you can play this game. For example, you can dance. Throw body for head, throw potion, use unstoppable spinning dagger, dodge, duck, chase, lodge, and die. This means the game has what more established game critics would describe as a high skill ceiling.
I knew you were hiding something!
The idea here is that because the game is so complex, there's a huge amount of scope to get very good at it. But because the combat is also seemingly very straightforward, man punch face, it has a very low skill floor.
You're both in on it!
But is the game good? Yeah, it's pretty good. I'd be hesitant to call it a full game yet exactly. It's more of a collection of incredibly impressive mechanics in need of a bit of refinement. Just picking dead people off the floor, for example, is wholly unpleasant as you instantly become a half-blind collection of dislocated limbs.
Oh, a penny.
The combat doesn't yet feel as impactful or precise as Gorn. Oh, this is definitely unfair. But Blatant Sorcery is trying to achieve something very different than Gorn. You see, Gorn in comparison is incredibly polished, and although there is a lot to do, its roster of gameplay mechanics pale in comparison to what you can do in Blatant Sorcery, even though its mechanics are a little janky. Oh, would you come down? Gorn is also more about absolutely annihilating your opponent.
Who's bad at sprints now, Mr. Fletcher?
Enemies in this game, as well as having the textures of real people, are more defensive and reactive, making the game feel far more realistic. This, combined with the obvious amount of effort that's been put into giving the weapons tangible weight so they convincingly lodge themselves into your victim's supple neck tissue, means the whole experience ends up feeling a little more horrifying. All that's missing is a voice that screams,
Have mercy!
as they cowardly flee. Mercy is for the weak.
Maybe there's a helpline I can call.
But like any good Bethesda game, you mean Obsidian game, right? Some of the jankiness is what makes this game more fun. I remember leaving my controllers on a desk, then walking across the room to find my arms were capable of more than just constantly dislocating. Uh-oh, that's not good.
Help me!
Another thing that makes Blades stand out is the clear amount of time that must have been put into the way all the objects in the game interact. Whatever you think you should be able to do within the range of the mechanics at your disposal is usually possible. You see, Blades focuses on achieving realism without being too realistic.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem.
Oh, fuck! Being realistic is stuff like your character walking and climbing at what would be considered a human pace. For example, in Doom, people have measured that your character is effectively breaking the land speed record, and it's fucking great. While realism is simply having gameplay and environments interact in a way that makes sense based on the mechanics we have at our disposal. For me, having lots of realism leads to a far more exciting experience where you organically discover interesting tidbits hidden within the game's mechanics. For example, I originally thought telekinesis was only used to pick up weapons until I accidentally stabbed someone when pulling a knife towards me. Jesus, they never covered that eventuality in Matilda. Anyway, after finding that out, stabbing people with floating knives quickly became my favourite part of the game. I honestly can't get over how fun this is. You see, possibly my favourite scene in X-Men First Class is when Magneto does this. And now I can do it too.
Was wollen Sie gern zu essen, verlieren?
You can also spin your blades while they're floating, but it's basically like pressing the always win button. Oh man, I don't know about this. The best level for me in the game is the ruins, simply because you can control this hanging chandelier thing that between you and me does absolutely nothing most of the time as it flies through the level, and I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. But you know what's more dangerous than a floating chandelier or a flying knife? Crates.
Ah, see, you've played Knifey Cratey before.
It's just a shame there's no mechanic for you accidentally killing yourself. Oh, Blade, vanquish me! Well, something's happening. The game's graphics are fairly average, as I'm sure you've noticed, but that's not really why we're here. So, you read any good books lately? Maybe there are some different visuals past this door. Nope, nothing in there. Plus, if you don't like a certain texture, you get an option in-game to alter it, which is pretty innovative as far as VR games go. Hi, and welcome to Painting with UpIsNotJump. You make myself sick. So today we're going to take a beautiful alizarin crimson, take off that happy cork and just get it all over our canvas. Just get it in all those nooks and crannies. Beautiful. I think the cabinet there's having a bit of trouble. For me overall, the graphics definitely don't hold the game back. In some areas like the market, they're quite nice, for example. What the f*** are these? Is this a 3D mesh with its flat texture right next to it? And who picked this color? There we go, good as new.
Reality's dogged form will forever haunt my dreams.
Are you afraid of pirates?
No? Well, I am. I can't have people hacking my account and getting their hands on all the pictures I have of Sid in a bikini.
Those were meant to be between Khajiit and human.